I got the footage. I got the footage.
Hey,
Yo, it's your boy Josh Beast, Josh Beast 2K, Josh Beast Live, whichever one you want to call it. Just make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe. And today we're going to be going over the NBA opening night schedule along with the NBA Christmas schedule. So the NBA just released the NBA opening night schedule, which will be the reigning champion Oklahoma City Thunder versus the up and coming Houston Rockets, followed by the Golden State Warriors at the Los Angeles Lakers. So the first matchup, the Houston Rockets at the Oklahoma City Thunder. I love this. In my honest opinion, I feel like they couldn't have a better opening matchup for the Oklahoma City Thunder to be going up against, given that first and foremost, the Rockets are up and rising team with Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun, but also they just acquired Kevin Durant. And as an NBA fan, I would love to see Kevin Durant. It'd be so funny to see Kevin Durant actually watching the team that drafted him, the team in which he got to the finals but never could actually deliver a championship to, and actually force his way out, and then get booed, calling him Cupcake when he went to the Golden State Warriors. To see them actually have a ring, to see them the team actually have a championship banner put up, and see all those players get a ring, it's very fun. It'd be very fun to watch, especially, and also just because of the matchup. I feel that the Rockets, in my honest opinion, are the second best team in the West. They're the number one threats to the Oklahoma City Thunder, given their young talent and also just recently acquired Kevin Durant. So I love this overall, especially for an NBA opening nighter. Followed by the second matchup in the Golden State Warriors at the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, this actually surprised me because I thought that they had to feature two Western Conference teams and two Eastern Conference teams, but it looks like I was wrong. And that could be because, the East is so weak this year, given that there have been so many injuries across the Eastern teams. And so with that being said, I like this as well. You got anytime you have Steph Curry versus LeBron, it's going to be, an NBA fan watcher. Even if, LeBron should be a Laker, I don't see him, given what's all that's been transpired this off season, I still think he's going to be a Laker, at least for the start of the season. So, anytime you see LeBron versus Steph Curry, especially if it's LA versus the Warriors, that's going to be must-see TV. And, you also got Luka, you got Jimmy Butler, and you just got the fan base, which is, LA, and then the fan base, which is Golden State. So, bottom line is that's going to be must-watch TV. And with these two opening night matchups, I have no problem with. I actually like this. So, shout out to the NBA. I love these two matchups. Now, the Christmas schedule, just like every other year, will feature 5 matchups. And I think it's in the following order. So let's get started. The first matchup is the Cleveland Cavaliers at the New York Knicks, followed by the San Antonio Spurs at Oklahoma City Thunder, followed by the Houston Rockets at the Los Angeles Lakers, followed by the Dallas Mavericks at the Golden State Warriors, followed by and lastly, the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Denver Nuggets. And I think it will be in that schedule. For the exact times, they haven't, I don't think they have confirmed those yet, but I think it will be in the schedule that I just said. Now, let's go by game, matchup by matchup, game by game. The Cleveland Cavaliers at the New York Knicks. I think this is a good one, but I don't know if this is a great one. And I'll give you why. First and foremost, it's New York. New York was going to be, as long as they're relevant, New York was going to be on the Christmas Day schedule. Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, they just got to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's New York. Their fan base, everyone likes to see New York, especially on Christmas Day. So there's no brainer there. They was going to be playing. Who they were going to be playing against was the question. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, although I don't mind this matchup, I give it good because it's Cleveland. Cleveland is actually are really going to be great contenders this year, with given how poor the East will be. But at the same time, Cleveland has just, if they don't, in my honest opinion, whenever they don't have LeBron James, they're just not must watch TV because it's Cleveland. It's not. It doesn't get that same appeal to like a New York or to like a Golden State or even like a Philadelphia. So with that being said, and plus Cleveland didn't really do well in the playoffs, even though they had a phenomenal season. They kind of underwhelmed, especially in the playoffs. So with that being said, it's still a good matchup, but what I honestly prefer is the New York Knicks versus the Detroit Pistons. Given that Detroit just played them in the playoffs, and it was actually a fun series to watch, even though it just lasted 6 games. It was very competitive and kind of sometimes went down to the last seconds. And plus, Detroit is like, Detroit's a major city, and it's very popular city, and they have a rising star in the Detroit Pistons have a rising star in Kate Cunningham, and that would be very interesting him go up against Jalen Brunson. But overall, I'm fine with this. Not good, but not great. Next matchup, the San Antonio Spurs at the Oklahoma City Thunder. I personally do not like this matchup, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's get to the good about this matchup. I'm just going to start with the good. There's stars. There's a lot of young stars here. You got Wemby, you got Shea, you got De'Aaron Fox, you got J-Dub, you got Chet, and then there's the youth in each of these teams. Both of these teams are very young, in my opinion. They're young and upcoming, and then also you got a good matchup with Chet and Wemby. That's going to be always a good matchup for years to come. So it's not that I totally don't like this. This is not a bad matchup for Christmas Day. I just feel like they could have got a better matchup. And honestly, I would have preferred if the Oklahoma City Thunder actually faced someone like the Minnesota Timberwolves. That was my preferred matchup. Even though that series didn't go far, it only went 5 games between Minnesota and OKC. It's just for the fact that you got Shea versus Anthony Edwards. Like, that is much watch TV, at least for an NBA fan. And so I feel like that would have just been more appealing. But I don't mind this matchup. Do I like it? In some ways I do, but I just think they could have got a better matchup, and I would have loved to see more. The OKC Thunder versus Minnesota, Shea versus Anthony Edwards, especially on Christmas Day. I feel like that would have been more fun for both an NBA fan and just a general fan. But let's go on. Let's move forward to our next matchup. Now, on to what I think is, or if not, is going to be the marquee matchup, and that is the Houston Rockets at the Los Angeles Lakers. Kevin Durant versus LeBron James. Now, for starters, you can't go wrong there. Kevin Durant versus LeBron James, that's must-see TV. Even at this stage in their careers, that is must-see TV. And pretty much the NBA is just assuming that LeBron is going to still be a Laker, and I think the same thing is going to apply here as well. I think LeBron's still going to be a Laker, at least before the end of the new year. So before the end of the current year. So you can't go wrong with this matchup. Kevin Durant versus LeBron James, Houston Rockets, who are, like I said, a rising team that's going to be very good next year, and versus the Los Angeles Lakers, who have Luka, are going to be great for years to come. This is going to get a lot of people watching. However, I think a better matchup would have been for the Los Angeles Lakers, and this is actually going to surprise a few people. Maybe some people may like this, some people may not. But this would have been the Battle of LA. Los Angeles Clippers at the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, the Battle of LA. Yes, the Clippers. Yes, Kawhi versus LeBron. James Harden versus Luka. Even though James Harden isn't on the level of Luka, they still kind of play the same. And you have Chris Paul, Bradley Beal. This is the battle of so many stars. This is you got in so many stars. Big names. Even though they're not playing how they once were, they're still kind of big names. And anytime, I feel like in the past, anytime the Lakers and Clippers have played, it's kind of been pretty much a good game. Especially if you remember them playing 5 years ago on Christmas Day, when the Clippers had Paul George and Lakers had Anthony Davis. It'd be fun to see them go up against each other once again. This time though, with LeBron having a different teammate in Luka, and Kawhi having a different teammate in James Harden. But I just honestly think, we should kind of just I would have loved it better. No, I don't mind this matchup. The Houston Rockets at the Lakers. Kevin Durant versus LeBron James. You can't go wrong with that. But in all honesty, I would have felt better. I would have preferred to see the Battle of LA. Los Angeles Clippers at the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, with that being said, let's move forward to our next matchup, and that is the Dallas Mavericks at the Golden State Warriors. Now, for starters, let's get this out of the way. I don't, according to sources, many people's sources, especially ones coming straight from Dallas, don't think Kyrie Irving will be back until at least the end of January or February, so most likely he's not going to be playing this game. But you still have you still have a good matchup here. You got Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler versus Cooper Flag and Anthony Davis. Do I think this was a best matchup? No. And what I mean, once again, what I say is I feel like the NBA could have got a better matchup, and that specifically could have been the Houston Rockets at the Golden State Warriors. Think about that. In the past, the Golden State Warriors have owned the Rockets. Now, the Rockets have taken away the reason why they have owned them in Kevin Durant, and now he's playing for the Rockets. And so now you would see Kevin Durant going up against the former team, the team that he helped beat the Rockets in versus the Golden State Warriors. Plus, these two teams just met in the playoffs, so they bound to hit. If you looked at that playoffs, it was really physical. There were so many not fights but scuffles with Draymond Green, Alperen Sengun, Min Thompson going up against Steph Curry. I feel like, just in all honesty, the Rockets versus the Warriors, given that these even though the team is kind of different now, the Houston Rockets are kind of different now. Steph Curry is at an older age. They're still much of very well so rivalry, and just Kevin Durant being on the Houston Rockets instead of the Golden State Warriors kind of just adds emphasis to that. And so, although I'm not completely upset about the Dallas Mavericks versus the Golden State Warriors, I would have preferred the Houston Rockets at the Golden State Warriors for rivalry purposes. And finally, that leaves us with our last matchup of the Christmas Day, which will feature the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Denver Nuggets. I don't mind this matchup at all. In my honest opinion, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets have a rivalry going on. Each time they have played it, given they have played in the playoffs, and these two teams kind of play like you got matchups going on. You got Rudy, even though this is not much of a matchup, Jokic versus Rudy in a way. These two teams basically like I feel like it's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like they have a rivalry going on, and so I don't mind this matchup. Ultimately you do got Anthony Edwards versus Nikola Jokic, but like I said, I just feel it could have been a better matchup, and that could have been the Minnesota Timberwolves, like I said earlier, versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then the Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. So yes, that would mean Dallas would not play on Christmas Day. Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. I would like that because you got, you're arguably, in my opinion, the best player in the world, or at least the best center in the world, Nikola Jokic, going up against a guy that one day could be the best player or best center in the world. Wemby, I can't. Wemby. I'm not gonna say it's 4-0. Let me just say Wemby. That would have been I think that would have been a good matchup, in my honest opinion. Then you have De'Aaron Fox versus Jamal Murray. I like that. So you got two matchups there that's really, really, really must see. Well, I'm not gonna say must see TV, but very interesting for the NBA fan base. So once again, Minnesota versus Denver, I don't mind that. That's a rivalry, but I just feel like there could have been, with so many other of these matchups, there could have been a better matchup. And so let's wrap this up with, I'm going to go ahead and put on the screen the opening night schedule, which I have no problem with, followed by the NBA Christmas Day schedule, and then compared to what I felt the NBA compared to my own NBA Christmas Day schedule, what I would have preferred. But let me know in the comments how you feel about this NBA opening night schedule and this NBA Christmas Day schedule. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time.